Call the roll.
Alderman Cone.
Bless you.
Thank you. Alderwoman Schweitzer.
Present.
Alderwoman Keys.
Here.
Vice Chair Saunier.
Present.
Alderman Browning.
Present.
Alderman Aldridge. Chair Clark Hubbard.
Here.
We have 7 present. We have a quorum.
Right, with that, I'll accept a motion to approve the minutes from Tuesday, January 13th, 2026.
So moved.
It was moved by Vice Chair Sanye and seconded by Alderman Cone that we approve the minutes from Tuesday, January 13th, 2026. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Alderman Cone. Alderwoman Schweitzer.
Aye.
Alderwoman Keys.
Aye.
Vice Chair Saunier.
Aye.
Alderman Browning.
Aye.
Alderman Aldridge. Chair Clark Hubbard.
Aye.
We have 7 aye votes.
All right, we will move forward in the agenda to item number 1. Alderman Aldridge, you're recognized on Board Bill 87.
Good morning, HUD's committee and Madam Chair, members of the HUD's committee. I'm super excited today to present you guys Board Bill 87, and then we have another bill behind that. I think Board Bill 125. It's a companion bill that really deals with bonds. But Board Bill 87 is an update to our Prop S ordinance that already exists. So what Board Bill 87 would do, it would update how bonds are funded and how stabilized vacant units are also going to be hopefully changed. So Board Bill 87 changes Section 3 of mainly the original ordinance that currently exists. And it does really does 3 key things. It changes the caps on the size of the units. It also ties it to the CPI, so when inflation happens, that construction costs and all those things are tied into it. And then it also expands eligibility work in the inside when it comes to interior demo and certain stabilization of things. So one of the first things that Board Bill 87 does with the Prop NS, and for ones who don't know, I know we all, at least here, knows what Prop NS is. It's a program that I would say is really beneficial here in the city of St. Louis, where the city does upgrades on units that need stabilization and to make sure that they kind of stay on the market. They do a lot of upgrades to those units, and then people are able to go out and invest and purchase those. However, there has been an issue in which hopefully this bill will address the cleanup of it, of how some of the upgrades are limited based on either single family or multifamily units. So what we're trying to do first is, like I say, address the restrictions and instead of tie it to single family, tie it more to a cap on the square footage. So anything that is 1,500 feet square foot can go up to about $50,000. Anything that's 1,500 square feet to 249 square feet would be capped at like 65,000, and then anything that's 250 square feet would be capped at 800,000. I know maybe potentially one of the questions is why go the route of the cap instead of looking at it per square footage. So there's a lot of multifamily units that are different sizes than single family units, and sometimes those different sizes make it a struggle to be able to issue funding to those units. So one of the things that we wanted to do is try to go a square feet route to kind of adjust the size, knowing that each family size and each multi-unit is different. Another change to the bill, again, is tying it to any annual inflation adjustment. So now it will be tied to CPI. So anytime inflation goes up, and why that's important is, as we know, construction prices have been going up, especially post-COVID. So tying it to CPIU guarantee that any future increasement in inflation and the construction costs will be accounted for without any additional changes that would need to go to the ordinance. One last thing that we talked about that we're changing in Section 3 of the Prop NS bill is limiting or adding more requirements on inside upgrades to the unit. So assuring that water tightness and structure stabilization is kind of added by expanding the scope to include water and sewer connection and additional interior demolition. What we end up noticing is that when folks are going in trying to stabilize some of the units, the limit of work that they can do in the upgrade of the inside is very limited. People that eventually go and try to invest and buy these units end up having to do more work than they originally thought they had to do. So first, I do want to bring up a few speakers, Madam Clerk, to talk a little bit more on the importance of expanding the Prop NS legislation so that they can go get a little bit more deeper into the ordinance that we're trying to change. First, I'll bring up the legendary individual who's been doing a lot of work already with this Prop S work, and just appreciate the work that they're doing to try to also work with us to expand it to make this legislation a little bit better.
That's okay. Good morning, and thank you for that, Alderman Aldridge. As Alderman Aldridge indicated, Prop NS is a very unique and important program. So I serve proudly as the Vice President of Real Estate for St. Louis Development Corporation and the Director of LRA. This program has been in the works for several years, and part of the importance of this legislation and passing it forward is that we're now in a period of time where we have collected enough data. We have heard from residents, we have heard from developers, but even more importantly, even as we look at the current planning processes that have been underway, we finally have community-based plans that are led by the City of St. Louis's planning agency. And so the goal for not just this program, but all of LRA's programs has always been to take funding and to pour that into specific programs where we can develop a block-by-block approach. So we have over the last year and a half actually, indicated specific blocks where we have looked at where Prop NS activity has or could be stimulated, as well as demolition activity, as well as lot clearing activity and new housing development. So this program is important in enhancing it so that we can, one, stabilize more buildings, but more importantly, making it not just more attractive and feasible for those who are going to be investing in the property, but to ensure that it gets to full stabilization. As the Alderman just spoke a minute ago, when the program was initially launched, the cap was based on the unit type. So that was, if it's a single family home, it has an investment up to a specific amount. If it's a multifamily unit, it has an investment up to a specific amount. However, it was not based on square footages. And so as we know in St. Louis, the average building type and building size varies greatly. There are buildings where they're as low as a few hundred square feet, and there are buildings that are as much as several thousands of square feet. So what this legislation will do is address the reality of the need and the requirement to get to full stabilization as a finished envelope product so that it then can be marketed and sold to those who are investors, developers, community organizations, and community members to then do the full rehab work and getting the property back into productive use. So I cannot take credit for the entirety of the program. There have been many who have moved forward in one, just developing the program, but I think also taking credit to the community who really spoke up years ago and moved forward to support getting this on the ballot as a community-based program whereby we can actually, for the first time, invest in stabilizing buildings that can be saved in this city. So I would like to bring up Sean Thomas, who is the Prop NS Program Manager. He's going to give an overview of the program, just so that you understand how the program was started, some basic KPIs of where we are today, and then again, building on the importance of what the changes to both the cap and the consumer price index changes will allow us to do in the program. Thank you.
Thank you, Shelton, and thank you to Alderman Aldridge for sponsoring this legislation, and to the staffs of President Green, as well as Mayor Spencer's staffs for working with us over the past, seems like a couple years now, in drafting these updates. And thank you, members of the committee, for hearing our observations today. As most of you know, Prop NS when it appeared on the ballot in April of 2017, was a truly grassroots initiative. It was brought forth by residents from throughout the city, neighborhood associations, and community leaders who, frankly, at the time perceived the city as being unresponsive to their concerns that for many decades about vacant buildings and the harm they cause in the city. In implementing the program after its passage over the past 5+ years, we've been committed to following the direct guidance as provided inside the ordinance, as well as honoring the vision of the people who brought this idea forth. And over the past 5+ years, since we've had the bonds available to us to actually stabilize buildings, we've received 678 nominations for buildings to be stabilized, inspected and reviewed and rated over 300, close to 350 buildings, approved 219 of the buildings for stabilization, and completed 189 stabilizations. Of those 189 completions, we've sold 119, and 19 more have had offers approved by LRA to close in the next month or two. So the changes, just as a quick clarification about the process here, is that the way the program was written and the way the ordinance was approved, we take nominations from the general public. Anybody who lives in the city, who owns property in the city, who pays taxes on those properties in the city, can nominate a building to be stabilized. To be approved for the program, they have to be eligible, which means they have to be owned by LRA, have to be residential with no more than 6 units, and they have to be available for purchase. So those are key components we look at when we first receive the nominations. And then we go out and inspect these buildings to clarify what the work needs to be done to get them in stable condition. And then we present that to a committee, a 7-member volunteer committee, 4 of whom are appointed by the wards with the most vacant buildings in them, and 3 of whom are appointed by the mayor. This committee then makes a recommendation to the LRA board. The LRA board then has to approve these for Prop NS funding. After all that, we put them out to bid for contractors to submit bids. If they are over the cap of what we can spend, obviously they don't get awarded a contract. They are required currently to spend no more than $50,000 on a building 2 to 6 units, and no more than $30,000 for a building that's a single family. So the proposal before you today, that's the key component, as Shelton emphasized. A 2,000 square foot single family building still has the same building envelope, the parts that we can focus on, the structure, the foundation, the walls, the roof. Those are things that aren't changed from a single family to a 2-family. But a single family at 2,000 square feet would probably cost out higher than our caps currently, which is why we're proposing, and included in this legislation, the change would go from a unit size to a square footage. And as you heard what those amounts are, we believe that would also bring them closer to alignment with the actual construction costs. The amounts that were set when this was presented to the voters in 2017 had been crafted in 2016 when the ordinance was prepared. So they're now over 10 years old and did not anticipate at all the inflation that we've had over the past 10 years, especially in the post-pandemic era. So those are the highlights. We are excited about this, and we support the changes if you all would consider that. And I believe the Alderman had others he wanted to call upon. But thank you very much for your attention to this, and we're available if you have any other questions.
Thank you. And before we go to questions from the committee, I also want to, there is an amendment in the drive that needs to be adopted to Board Bill 87, or does everyone have it in front of them? Okay. Basically, this is language, and also I want to appreciate the support outside of the president's office, really being a cheerleader leading this, the mayor's office, and also the comptroller office for being here and also supporting it. One of the things with talking with the comptroller office, we noticed kind of an error when we talked about the CPI, and we didn't want a reduction. So we just did some cleanup language to make sure that there's not a reduction when it comes to the annual changes and making sure that it's tied to the CPI. And with that, I'll move to adopt Amendment 1 to Board Bill 87.
Second.
It's been moved by Alderman Aldridge and seconded by Alderman Browning that we accept amendment number 1. Madam Clerk, please
Previous roll.
call for previous roll with no objections. Please proceed.
Thank you, HUD's committee members. And with that, we would have Board Bill 87. presented in front of us, and open up to any questions from my colleagues.
Did you want to do any public comment, or you want?
We can go to public comment first.
Do we have any public comment?
We have Katie Berry.
Okay. Ms. Berry, if you can raise your right hand, swear to tell the whole truth and nothing but the truth.
Yes.
Please proceed.
Good afternoon. My name is Katie Berry, and I am past president of St. Louis Realtors and I'm a St. Louis City 8th Ward resident. St. Louis Realtors represents more than 8,500 real estate professionals who work every day in neighborhoods across the city and region. I'm here today to express our support for Board Bills 87 and 125, and thank you to Alderman Aldridge for his leadership in bringing these updates forward. Taken together, these two bills modernize Proposition NS program to better reflect today's realities, making it both more effective and more predictable. From a realtor's perspective, that predictability is critical because private investment is far more likely to follow public investment when rules are clear and consistent. Collectively, these bills update outdated cost assumptions, align spending with actual building conditions, and reinforce the goal that stabilization should lead to the sale, renovation, and reoccupancy, not long-term holding. They also provide clear expectations for contractors, buyers, neighborhoods, and the city, which helps stabilize properties more effectively, bringing them back into productive use. As these bills move through the legislative process, we are hoping to open discussions whether additional refinements could be incorporated now to further improve how the program functions. One example of such a tweak relates to the front end of the process. Today, the building division must complete an initial assessment before the property can move forward. That role is important, but in practice, staffing and workload challenges can sometimes slow or even stall that first step, even when there is momentum to push it forward. One potential option to consider, among others, would be allowing Proposition NS to use qualified outside inspectors on a contract basis when the building division is unable to complete that initial assessment in a timely way. The intent wouldn't be to replace the city oversight, but to avoid unnecessary bottlenecks and keep the program moving forward. In closing, St. Louis Realtors supports Board Bills 87 and 125 and appreciates the work that has gone into strengthening Proposition NS. We thank Alderman Aldridge and the committee for your leadership, and we look forward to continuing in a constructive partnership as you consider these bills. Thank you for the opportunity to speak today.
Thank you so much, Ms. Berry. All right, we'll go into questions. I'll just say I, for one, am personally grateful for some of these changes because the buildings in the 10th Ward and the former 26th Ward that have been able to take advantage of this program are larger buildings, and so being thoughtful in this, intentional in this work is great. Even some of the ones that I kind of saw in real time getting done and unfortunately saw get taken back down by the tornado, like in the Fountain Park neighborhood and stuff, I still know that this tool coming in 2019, how valuable it was then and how much more even valuable it is now. So thank you all for all of the work that you all have done up to now, and looking forward to continuing to support this work as we move forward in the future. Alderman Cone.
I don't have any questions, Madam Chair.
Alderwoman Schweitzer.
Thank you very much, Madam Chairwoman and members of the committee. Great presentation and very informative. The one question that I have about the bill is in section 4, when it talks about some of the changes to the bill, or what's in the process can be changed by the Board of ENA without coming back to the Board of Aldermen. And I just wanted to understand what that would be what is anticipated there, or what that section is about. I don't think we've covered that yet.
Could you repeat that? I'm sorry, I was pulling it up, Alderwoman.
Section 4 of the bill talks about the Board of ENA being able to make changes without coming back to the Board of Aldermen. And I was not sure what that was regarding in terms of what changes might be anticipated in the future.
That is a good question, and I'm pulling that up now too for myself. I'm not seeing a section 4, Alderwoman. Oh, there's a section 4, the mayor and comptroller.
Page 3, line 17.
Yes, thank you. Page 3.
Yeah, I'm gonna have Ms. Hayden from the President's office speak.
Fantastic. Thank
Good
you.
morning, Alderwoman. That's
Good
the
morning.
previous ordinance. So you know how whenever we amend ordinances, the previous ordinance has to be listed right up under the bill? That's section 4 of the, what is it? Ordinance number 70846. So we're not changing section 4. That already is ordinance. We're just only
Can you
changing
still
section
tell me
3.
what it might refer to, though,
I'm not
in
sure.
terms of changes? Okay, I just wondered if changes like this, when they're so substantive, are coming to us, and other changes might go through the Board of ENA, or what it was referring to. So if we don't anticipate it being used, that's one thing, but
And Ms. Hayden, we all know and love you, but can you announce who you are and your title for the record?
Yes, I'm Janika Hayden, Policy Associate for President Green.
And to add on to that, Alderwoman, yeah, the only changes that we are addressing, and I can try to get clarity from I know we have a new comptroller and a new mayor, but maybe clarity in the past also from the president, if any changes from Prop NS ever been in front of ENA, but all the changes that we're amending from the old ordinance of 70846 is all the ones mainly in section 3. So every other section that currently is in the bill is,
it's just staying the same.
yeah, it's just staying the same. It's an old language.
Okay. I really do like the changes that are being made. I think that adjusting programs in the city to CPIU is a great idea, and it makes a lot of sense for the changes so that we don't end up in situations where a really good idea from almost 10 years ago is made impossible by the conditions of the market today. So I appreciate that change in particular, and I look forward to hearing if there is any information about anything that's come through ENA that we haven't seen at the board or anything that's anticipated. Please let me know. Thank you for your time. And please add me as a co-sponsor, Madam Clerk.
So noted.
Alderwoman Keys?
Thank you, Madam Chair and members of the HUD's committee. Please add me as a sponsor number 1. I am a fan of Prop NS, but I do agree very strongly with Ms. Berry that there does need to be an outside inspector to look at the work that was completed under Prop NS. I do have a personal connection to Prop NS, and very pleased that this program actually exists. But I do think that outside inspectors would add another layer of protection on the other side for the buyer. And so with that, I yield to anybody else that is ready to speak on it.
Alderman Browning?
Thank you, Alderman Aldridge, for bringing this forward and working on it, and thank you to our experts here from the LRA. We really appreciate the work that's being done. You can count me as a fan of Prop NS as well. I've done, I've driven around the city and I've looked at some of the buildings that have been stabilized, and all I can think of is just gratitude that we're saving some of these structures, some of which are quite beautiful and would have been lost to time without this program. So I look forward to seeing some of these structures become someone's home someday. and just think it's so important that we preserve that what makes our city special. Alderman, I had the opportunity. I haven't had the opportunity to connect with you personally, but I know that what had approached you about an idea with the thresholds, and the idea was to move, instead of having thresholds, to kind of make it a formula-based model where there's a $25,000 base and then it's $20 per square foot with a cap of $80,000. I was wondering if we could hear from someone from LRA about that idea, and if that is something that would be preferred, and that it, I think, still fits the spirit of what this bill is doing, but might provide some more flexibility for buildings that have unit sizes in between some of these threshold numbers.
Yeah, and I will have them come up. I do want to commend your LA. I know he's new, and he's already looking at legislation and trying to figure out how he can help. He did ask me about it. This is the first time actually seeing language, so didn't know what the actual language would look like, and as soon as I seen it, I've brought it to LRA to see if there's something that makes sense now, or probably need to have more conversation with the bond council to bring back to the floor, or make changes on the floor if accepted, but I will have LRA come up to speak on it.
Yes, no, thank you, Alderman Brown, for that question. And so when we created the recommendations for the changes to the cap, we did an extensive, I would just say, investigation of all of the Proponents properties that had come through the program, and what the reality of the requirement to get to stabilization was for these properties. And so if you'll notice, the proposed legislation is an up to amount. It is not to write into stone that every property that is within that square footage range receives that exact dollar amount, but that allows the program to then issue a bid to contractors for the program to then say, hey, we'll move forward with the contract that really does identify the scope in getting it to stabilization. So in some cases, if we're successful by raising the cap, we may not actually expend the top of that cap amount, but this definitely allows us to not inadvertently prohibit properties that ordinarily would have been able to come into the program and to be stabilized, to at least get to the Stabilization Advisory Committee for review, and then onto the LRA board for a decision to move forward with stabilization. So again, even after the Stabilization Advisory Committee reviews each individual case by case for each property, and after the LRA board approves that, it then moves into the bidding process. And so again, we do have a mechanism in the bidding process to review those bids and to determine if the scope of work and the pricing is congruent with what is in the current market. I do also want to respond to one of the questions that was brought up, and the comment in support by Ms. Berry. Ms. Berry, thank you. We have also been very intentional about thinking about what is it going to take to inspect the number of buildings. And we know the reality is that certainly with the May 16th tornado as an added factor, there's a lot of constraints on the building division, their ability to be able to help in accelerating the program. And so we've actually met with the comptroller's office as well as the building division, and we all unanimously agree that the role moving forward that will be a part of the inspection process for the program will be an internal resource from SLDC. And so we've met with the comptroller's office and identified the budget that is currently within the program, and that budget would essentially shift to SLDC to retain an internal inspector. That position has actually already been posted, and so we look forward to reviewing some competitive candidates who can help us in the inspection process coming forward, hopefully as soon as this month.
Thank you. That's very helpful. So I guess what I'm hearing from you is that while the caps that are in amount, the thresholds are there, that the exact funding amount is capable of being somewhere in between those throughout the process. And so there doesn't necessarily need to be a formula that you have your own internal formulas that you somewhat adjust for each project that comes in front of you. Does that sound right?
Yeah, and to clarify, if you look at the construction stabilization scopes of work, it's broken down into making what's called a building envelope. And so that has to do with flooring repairs, roofing repairs, mason repairs to the structure itself. There are buildings that will be in all different categories. based on the level of repair that they will require to those specific pieces. So there may be a 1,000-square-foot building that has a stronger roof or a stronger building exterior foundation system, but the entire floor system is completely a redo. And that may warrant more or less depending upon the square footage. And so when we created the recommendation, it was based off of, again, the past precedents of all of the properties that have been Prop NS program in getting to what we knew would be an allowable threshold for the reality of funding to go into each individual property type. So again, this is calling for a recommendation of up to, but it is not saying that we will expend the top amount for the cap on every single property in the property square footage type.
Okay, thank you. I think that addresses my concern about, I just want to make sure that we're fitting the exact need of each project and that we're not being too constricted. So that sounds like it really addresses my concern. I had prepared an amendment with some language, but I don't think it's necessary based on what you've told us today. So I really do appreciate the extra information, and now I'm glad that the public has been able to hear that information as well. This is a great fix to the program. I hope it really does have the result we're looking for. And I also want to give a shout out to Noel Pfeffer, who's no longer with the city, but I know that he had championed this well before he had left as well. And so we want to make sure that we're getting this program to a place it needs to be. So really appreciate all your work, and look forward to continuing to see that work being done out in our city.
Thank you, Alderman Brownlee.
Vice Chair Sanye.
And if I could add myself as a co-sponsor too, I don't know if I remember to do that.
So noted. Sorry. Thank you, Chairman, and all of the officers that are present today. I just have a few questions. Do we have any information on how many of the Prop NS buildings were damaged from the tornado, either minor damage or major damage, total losses?
Thank you for that question, because obviously that was a heartbreaking experience for all of us in so many different ways. The short answer to that question is there are probably about 20 to 30 that had some damage of some sort that were stabilized buildings. The unfortunate thing was, especially for the ones that were sold already to people who had purchased them through Prop NS and had begun their stabilization or their rehab work and had complete losses. And often those were individuals who could not get insurance because they weren't up to occupancy standards by the time the storm hit. But there were 4 that we know of that were completely destroyed. There were about another 10 or so that had some significant damage, and then probably really closer to 20 to 30 others that had minor damage or moderate damage.
And will those buildings be prioritized with this cap lift?
Unfortunately, to my knowledge, the cap now will apply to new buildings accepted into the program. The buildings that are existing buildings that have already had stabilization have spent the caps, up to the caps on those. So we can't go back to Prop NS funds to revisit buildings that have already been stabilized.
But moving forward with funds, are you saying that because there already were LRA funds that they can't be prioritized?
What I'm saying is that I believe the ordinance that applied at the time those funds were put into those buildings said that we could not spend any more on those. I'd have to refer to legal counsel on whether the higher cap could then apply to existing buildings that have already been stabilized, but I don't believe you can go back to that. Sure.
And I can respond to that too, Alderwoman Sonier. So essentially, the period of time when bonds are issued are technically a bond cycle. And so what is specific to the bond cycle, just as we were looking at this legislation piece, the prior legislation is specific to the bond cycle. So those limits for that bond cycle would apply to the properties that were administered in the program. But what Sean is also referring to is that those are properties that are a mixture of properties that LRA owns in the program and ones that were already sold. So the ones that were sold are ones that are now in the hands of private owners who were going through the process of doing either stabilization or may have stabilized the property and did some rehab. And so we're looking at ways as we go through tornado recovery as a city overall to see where there can potentially be a way to help incentivize those who have already invested into the program. But to be clear, the specific legislation that is moving forward today will not be applied to those because that was prior to what will be the new bond cycle that would affect this ordinance. Again, I will refer to the attorney as well as the comptroller's office, the attorney for SLDC and LRA.
Yeah, I just wonder, is there any ability through the ordinance here, or, I don't know, to grandfather it in? I don't know. I'd be curious about just the legalities of being able to prioritize those properties for reinvestment moving forward. If it was talked about and there was no legislative pathway, that's fine, but it would definitely be my preference that we would figure out some kind of way to grandfather those ins or make an exception if you were hit by a natural disaster. I'm just curious if those conversations came up policy-wise or what the legalities are there.
Yes, still morning. Good morning, everyone. I'm James Morrow with the City Councilor's Office. We also have outside counsel assisting us with this transaction. There's Young Teasdale and there's bond counsel. I do want to briefly address the question that you raised, Alderwoman. The issue is that the city has an agreement it's called an indenture with the bondholders. So the people who purchased the bonds from the last bond cycle, they were basically told, these are the caps that we're going to spend on these properties. So with the bonds that have been already issued and spent, we're stuck with that cap. But once, if the board approves Board Bill 125, we're going to be entering into what's called an amended indenture, where basically we have an amended agreement with the bondholders that the new caps are going to apply. So we can have this being prospective and forward-looking with, as Shelton mentioned, with the next bond cycle, basically the bond proceeds that we're going to be having after Board Bill 125 is adopted.
And tornadoes impacted by properties impacted by the tornado will be eligible to be revisited with that revisited indentured agreement?
That is a fairly technical question. I don't think we have bond counsel on the call right now, but it's something we can address with them. That would be limited just to the properties that remain in LRA ownership that have already received stabilization investment. Properties that are in the tornado impact area that are nominated going forward would receive the benefits of the new cap.
Okay. I just want to make sure I stay on the record that I think that really needs to be baked out and thought out, because to me that seems like a large goal of why we're revisiting how some of these things are going to be done, and I would certainly support those being prioritized.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Do you have any follow-up?
Alderman Cone, did you have follow-up?
I have Alderwoman Keys has her hand raised.
Alderwoman Keys.
Thank you. So I just want to be clear that, okay, so Prop NS will cover what, a roof, tuck point and clean out, and now plumbing, which I'm very happy to hear about. Did I hear electrical as well?
No, not electrical.
Okay then. All right. Thank you so much.
Alderman Cone.
Your mic is not on.
Hello, great. My microphone never seems to want to work except for when it's hearing things clack on the table here. But I also have an amendment, which I believe will be amendment number 3 to Board Bill 87.
Number 2.
Or I'm sorry, I left it blank. Number 2, which would insert language essentially further elaborating that priorities of LRA will include but aren't limited to neighborhood planning effort priorities, as we're undergoing a lot of those throughout the city right now, and adopted neighborhood plans and special use districts and things of that nature, so that we're specifically trying to prioritize sale of these properties if they are in the boundaries of those types of planning efforts or districts, to ensure that they align with the priorities of the neighborhoods that they're being sold with.
It's a motion.
I would move that we adopt amendment number 2 to Board Bill 87.
Second.
Previous roll.
Discussion. Any discussion?
I just want to go on record to say I support this amendment. I do think it's good to make sure, like my neighborhood and many others north is going through a lot of different neighborhood plans on top of the future Zoop. So as we think about moving forward, I do think when you talk about prioritizing those with what the community is saying, I think makes absolutely smart idea, and I appreciate the alderman for working with the experts in the room to get the language right. And I support the amendment.
Absolutely. There was a call for previous roll
Who called for previous roll?
by Alderwoman Schweitzer with no objection. Please proceed.
Any other, everyone's good?
I just have a motion to, would like to make a motion to embank.
Second. It was moved by Vice Chair Sanye and seconded by Alderwoman Clark Hubbard that we move this Board Bill 87 in bank.
Previous roll.
As amended, 87.
So 87 as amended in bank with a call for previous roll with no objection. Congratulations and thank you. Now, please proceed.
Thank you, Madam Chairwoman, and to everybody first behind me, from LCRA to SC, to the legal folks, to the comptroller's office, to the president's office, to the mayor's office. I do want to give a huge, to our realtor friends who's been supportive of it, just a thank you. This has been a conversations that I remember when the alderman from the 9th previous LA was was even being looked at of how we can start to address, I think, a program that meant very well. And as we know down at the board, when we do legislation, sometimes we have to amend it and change it. And as we see that it's enacted, make it better. And I just want to thank all the folks behind me who are doing the great work and have been working with this board to try to upgrade this legislation. Before I talk about it, I do want to just say, Alderwoman from the 7th, I totally understand where you're coming from. I'll talk with legal and the bond counsel to see what can be done, like on a legal level. I know this is something that has been in the works, before the tornado, but a lot of our energy, especially post-tornado, we need to look at an area that already been disinvested, like how do we support, but want to make sure we legally can do it. So your comments do not go on deaf ears. But really excited about Board Bill 87. As we all spoke about it earlier, it does 3 main things in Section 3. It upgrades the cap on properties so that individuals from the city that's trying to do those upgrades can be able to have a little bit more wiggle room. It also ties it to CPI. As we know, goods and everything continue to go up. Construction's continuing to go up. It ties it to CPI to make sure as future goods go up that's tied. And it expands interior work that is necessary to be done within these units. Again, I just want to thank everybody who's been part of this, and I would ask for a do pass recommendation on Board Bill 87 as amended.
I make a motion.
It was moved by Vice Chair Sanye and seconded by Alderman Browning. We move Board Bill 87 as amended with the due pass recommendation. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Alderman Cone. Aye. Alderwoman Schweitzer.
Aye.
Alderwoman Keys.
Aye.
Vice Chair Sanye.
Aye.
Alderman Browning.
Aye.
Alderman Aldridge.
Aye.
Chair Clark Hubbard.
Aye.
You have 7 aye votes.
Right, with that, you successfully passed Board Bill 87 with as amended with the due pass recommendation in bank. You may proceed with Board Bill 125.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the committee. Board Bill 125 is kind of the simpler part of Board Bill 87. This is just the cooperation agreement that authorized this legislation to be able to go into effect. So it's very similar language that talks about caps. It has changed from the previous cooperation agreement to make sure it aligns with this ordinance. Again, want to thank the bond counsel and the comptroller office with the support of this legislation, as well as SODC and LRA, but this is just an agreement so that that the Prop NS language lines up with the actual ordinance. And with that, I'll open up for any questions.
All right. Did you have any speakers for this? Or just, are y'all good? Okay. Any public comment for Board Bill 120?
She was asking if her previous comments from 87 can apply to 125.
Absolutely. All right.
So another, that was the
Alderman
only speaker.
Cone. Alderman Cone. Okay, we'll go ahead and move. Oh.
Sounds like you're good, but
Need the mic.
and your mic again isn't working, Alderman.
Could we just get a clarification as to, since we just amended Board Bill 87 to include the items that we did, why would we not be updating the cooperation agreement to reflect those changes that were made in the amended bill?
Yeah, absolutely, Alderman. If the committee will take a look at Board Bill 125, the cooperation agreement on the very last page where it's talking about property marketing and sales, the sales policy that LRA is going to agree to requires that it follow the Proposition NS ordinances, which were just amended to include some of the neighborhood planning policy directives. So
And the pricing?
And the price.
Okay.
Yeah,
All right.
okay. So we don't need to amend the cooperation agreement. It's already incorporating the prior amendment to Board Bill 8 by reference.
Are you, when you say, are you referencing section 5.4 or it's Article 5 or?
He's looking at the exhibit.
I'm looking at the actual
Cooperation
agreement.
Correct. So it's on page 5 of the cooperation agreement document itself, and that is the.
Excuse me, could you speak into the mic, please?
Yes. So yeah, it is page 5 of the cooperation agreement itself, and section 5.4 of the Board Bill 125 that directs that LRA shall sell the properties consistent with the NS ordinance.
I'm just looking at like Article 5, Section 5.1, Program for Sale of Stabilized Properties, the second amendment that we passed, outlining prioritization of sale, based off of neighborhood planning priorities and zoning overlays and such. Should that not be added to Section 5.1?
Well, again, it's incorporating those amendments by reference. If it's the preference of the committee to specifically identify that, we can try and work up some additional language, but.
But it's your legal opinion that because it references that later in the agreement, that since we just amended that ordinance, it would be covered underneath the agreement?
Correct, yes.
Okay, all right. I don't have any further questions. Thank you.
Alderwoman Schweitzer.
No questions, thank you.
Alderwoman Keys.
I have no questions. Thank you.
Alderman Browning.
No questions, thank you.
Vice Chair Sanye.
Sorry to break the trend. I do have questions. I just wanted to first put on the record that I really do like the structure of the board here. And I know folks who are watching at home might not be following us, but it would be 3 members who are appointed by the mayor and then 4 members who are appointed by the alders who have the wards with the highest concentration of LRA properties. And it also requires that those members attend the meetings at least 50% of the time. I appreciate that. I think that is how these boards should be structured, and the folks who are most impacted should be the ones who are, in leadership of those conversations. I did just have a question. What are the currently, what are the 4 wards that have the highest amount of LRA properties? And I know in the bill it kind of references like single family and multifamily kind of residential properties, but I'm curious about that component of it.
I could speak on it, and I think that language is actually just carried over from the previous cooperation, but I would say it's Ward 10, 11, 12, 13, 14.
Thank you. And then I was also, I think this was also in the previous legislation, but something we talk about a lot is kind of the staffing of the building division. And there's specifically in page 4 of the Exhibit A, it says that assigning not less than 3 building division staff to include inspectors, utility workers, and building inspector supervisors to carry out the above described responsibilities. It shall be the inspector's full-time duty to carry out the building division's responsibilities listed above. I just wanted to, Alderman, I'm sure in your conversations, you know, all the time here we talk about staffing capacity that the building division does or not have. So I just wanted to touch base on the minimum staffing level required for this and just ensuring that the building division feels that they'll be able to be, you know, they'll be able to meet that.
Yeah, I don't think we have the building division here, but I would say, like any department, they will probably be coming in front of us as budget as you sit on it with myself and say, absolutely. We would love more staff to that and be able to hire it as we get into budget season. You know, I think that would be something that we can definitely bring up to the budget department or the building division to see, hey, do the board, since we have a role and obligation here, do we need to add more to that particular NS? But I would say, once you start talking about building division, I'm sure the alderman from the 3rd is going to say we need more for this and more for that. So opening up a can, but I'm sure they absolutely would probably love more.
Okay, that's why I asked after he talked, because I was like, I'm sure I'll cover a little bit more succinct. Thank you for that. And I just want to put that on record for those of us that are on budget, that I do think more of a reason for us to revisit that conversation. And then in the first page of Exhibit A, could someone explain the part about the 15 building pilot project?
Yes, Alderwoman, I can speak to that. The Exhibit A that you see before you is amending an existing cooperation agreement. So the 15 building pilot project refers to the original pilot project that was being pursued when the first agreement was amended. We just, in the interest of not trying to make too many modifications, didn't take that language out.
Okay. Thank you. And I would also like to make a motion to embank Board Bill 125.
Second.
Previous row.
It was moved by Vice Chair Sanye, seconded by Alderwoman Clark Hubbard, that we embank Board Bill 125 with a call for previous roll by Alderman Aldridge. With no objections, please proceed.
Okay, sorry about that. Thank you, members of the committee, for the questions. I think, like I say, this one is a little bit more of a simpler one. It is just aligning with what we passed with 87, and the cooperation agreement has to be aligned with the new ordinance, and it's kind of the companion bill. I know I've said it several times, but I just, you know, can't go off record to thank all the departments from SODC, LCRA, the Comptroller's Office, the Mayor's Office, and especially the President's Office, who have worked diligently, Ms. Janika Hayden and Director of Policy, Christina Gramindia, for working with me and these different departments to pull this together to upgrade this piece of legislation. With that, I'll ask for a do pass recommendation on Board Bill 125.
Make a motion that we pass Board Bill 125 with the do pass recommendation.
Second.
It was moved by Vice Chair Sanye and seconded by Alderman Browning that we move Board Bill 125 and bank with a do pass recommendation. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Alderman Cone. Aye. Alderwoman Schweitzer.
Aye.
Alderwoman Keys.
Aye.
Vice Chair Sonier.
Aye.
Alderman Browning.
Aye.
Alderman Aldridge.
Aye.
Alderwoman Clark Hubbard.
Aye.
Chair Clark Hubbard.
Aye.
We have 7 aye votes.
All right, with that, you successfully passed Board Bill 125 out of committee. Please proceed.
All right, to Board Bill 127. Thank you, guys. All right, Madam Chair, members of the committee, I would like to present to you all Board Bill 127. This is a board bill that would, as you know, we passed several bills down here to do SIDS. This board bill would actually start the process and termination of the Syndicate Trust Community Improvement District SID. This is, I know the alderwoman from the first hate single site SIDS. So this will be one that we are working to get rid of. This SID was established in 2008. It's a single site SID. The work that was needed for it in the past has proceeded, and you know they do not need the SID anymore to continue any upgrades for the current SID. I'm not sure if we have anybody online in the attendee room that maybe wanted to speak on it from the syndicate SID, if it's an attorney or anybody. But again, this is just trying to get a SID off our books that is no longer being utilized and has been asked directly from the individuals to terminate it. If there is somebody online, it would be maybe a Mary in the attendee room. No Mary? Okay. If not, I'll just want to go to public first, but if not, I'll open up for any questions from the committee members.
All right. Alderman Cone. Alderwoman Schweitzer.
Thank you. I'm flipping through the bill, and how much is left in the SID accounts?
That's what I was hoping if Ms. Mary, she says she's trying to get on and keep getting denied.
It says the district will have no assets upon cessation in the petition.
Good question, Alderwoman. The attorney for the SID is hopping back on, so.
Thank you.
I do know it hasn't been utilized in a while, so that's a good question of if they.
Yeah, I think this sales and use tax. So I don't know. It says there, it also says there's no one in the area, so obviously there wouldn't be sales tax, but.
Ms. Mary, if you can turn on your mic and your camera.
If it's okay, Madam Chair, she was going to be one of my expert witnesses.
Okay, great. Mary, can you raise your right hand and swear to tell the whole truth and nothing but the truth?
Yes, can you hear me?
Thank you. Yes, ma'am. Please proceed.
Hi, Ms. Mary. If there is a question, but I don't know if you just wanted to give any additional content or any additional conversation on the importance of dissolving this SID and why it's not needed anymore.
Wasn't in the meeting just before this because I wasn't connected, but could you fill me in on exactly what you're asking?
Yeah, so the Board Bill 127 is the board bill to get rid of the syndicate trust SID. And one of the questions that was brought up, I know this SID isn't utilized anymore and hasn't been utilized anymore, but one of the questions asked from the alderwoman from the first of how much money or asset is still left from the SID. Did I get your question right, Alderwoman?
Yeah, it's just any assets. It says that there aren't any in the petition, but then it also says that they'll be dissolved by the SID. So I just wanted to know a little bit more if there's money in the account, assets, and what the plans are, if any. Thank you.
There really aren't any assets
And
left.
sir,
Yeah,
if you could,
introduce yourself, sir,
yeah, if you can
and
introduce,
be on camera. Thank you.
Can I answer that one?
Yes, you just need to introduce yourself and
Oh, I'm sorry.
And
My
can
name
you
is
raise your right hand and swear, in your introduction, you can also raise your right hand and swear to tell the whole truth and nothing but the truth? We
Yes.
see you. Thank you.
Sorry about that, and thank you all for adding this to your agenda. My name is Nick Lucetti. We represent the petitioner here. There are no assets of the district. Any money that is collected from the CID, it's a very small amount, just gets sent to service the outstanding obligations. And the reason the petition says what assets are left will be wound up is just as a catch-all to formally close out the CID as required by statute.
thank you very much. And is the unit vacant currently?
There are two
Units?
retail operators still operating within the district. I think one is a Clarkson Eye Care, and I forget the other, but it's just the main level of the syndicate building. None of the residential units above it are included in the CID.
Okay. And the sales tax is still being charged?
Yes.
Okay. And is there something that, I remember working with the Lockborough Commons SID in stopping the sales tax, the members of the board had to sort of shut off the sales tax. Has that already occurred, or is this happening with this petition?
This would occur in connection with this petition.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Alderwoman Keys?
Thank you. I have no questions.
Alderman Browning?
You know, if we were creating a sit, I'd have questions, but we're not, so no questions.
Vice Chair Sanye?
No questions.
All right, please proceed.
thank you, Madam Chair, members of the committee, and to the attorneys that are online representing the SID. I'm looking forward this time, unlike last week, to get the support of the alderman from the 9th since we're getting rid of the SID. Again, this is just a simple one. It's not a SID that's needed anymore, and we are trying to get this one off the books. And with that, I will ask for a do pass recommendation on Board Bill 127.
So moved.
It was moved by Vice Chair Sanye and seconded by Alderman Cone that we pass Board Bill 127 out with the due pass recommendation. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Alderman Cone. Alderwoman Schweitzer.
Aye.
Alderwoman Keys.
Aye.
Vice Chair Sonier.
Aye.
Alderman Browning.
Aye.
Alderman Aldridge.
Aye.
Chair Clark Hubbard.
Aye.
We have 7 aye votes.
All right, with that, you successfully passed out Board Bill 127. Congratulations, Alderman Aldridge. On all 3, do we have any resolutions for review?
We have none.
Any committee discussions?
We have none.
Any written testimony?
We have none.
Any announcements? Go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the committee, and for the Sheen Bean Show today on HUDs. But I do want to thank our clerks and just give them a thank you. I know there was a lot of moving pieces with amendments and stuff like that at the last minute in communication. So just thank our clerk staff for just getting it done and continuing to do great work. And glad to be on this committee because individuals like them. Thank you.
Absolutely, great work. And work that can only happen in committee. So that's why it's important to participate. I'll also mention that this evening there is a tornado recovery community meeting and resource fair. Mayor Spencer and STL Recovery Office from 5:30 to 8 p.m. at Yateman Liddell Middle School, 4265 Athlone Avenue. Again, that's 4265 Athlone Avenue. Connect with city officials and the tornado recovery team And also this one is dedicated to private property assistance. That's the demolition, debris removal, repairs. So if you are still in need of those here going on, we are now at 8 months past the tornado. This is an opportunity to connect with those resources directly. All members were present this morning, so with that, I will accept a motion to adjourn.
Second.
It was moved by Alderman Cone and seconded by Vice Chair Sanyeh that we adjourn. All in favor? Aye. Thank you, everyone. Have a blessed day.